อ Do you want that mountain of fries or that swimming pool of alcohol? Or do you want energy? Do you want clarity? Do you want memory? Do you want vitality? Do you want creativity? And ultimately, what I want is I want to feel good. And I want to be good. And I want to do good. And that comes from a brain and body that work right. So I don't want to feel good now, but not later, right? That's a 4-year-old's mindset. I want to feel good now and later. So the things I do day in and day out, I love. Now, it takes a while sometimes to change your habits. The brain is lazy. It just wants to do what you've allowed it to do. So what you said is just so beautiful. It's like, well, I still get the cravings and I'll give in, and then all of a sudden, why did I do that?
Yeah, that's right. Changing the career.
Because then I just don't feel awesome. So for that momentary pleasure, it's like, well, is it worth it? Does it fit? So another tattoo I'm going to get someday. Does it fit? So I recommend, this is actually part of Secret 7, live each day based on clearly defined values, purpose, and goals. And quite frankly, hedonism, it's not on my goal list. It's not in my value list. And hedonism, so giving in to every craving I have, is the enemy of happiness, because it ends up wearing out your dopamine, or pleasure center, in your brain. And I always talk about, you want to drip dopamine. Don't dump it. Because when you dump it with the fries and the alcohol, the porn, you don't have much left. And so then you have to go back and do it again. And all of a sudden, chemicals are controlling you rather than you are controlling you.
The dopamine gets so addictive. And as you said, with the pleasure centers, now we're having to, the same amount of what we had doesn't even fulfill the amount of pleasure. So we have to have more to hit the same amount of pleasure, as far as I understand. Is that correct? Like,
it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And fame wears out the pleasure centers in your brain. And I've been blessed. I mean, I'm friends with you, with Justin and Miley, and you know, we talk about this over and over again, how fame is just such a trap. Because, you know, once, you know, like I had a video go viral, and it was like 40 million views. And I'm like, oh, it's so exciting. And so when the next one gets 8 million views, you're like, well, that sucked. And you realize just, you know, how stupid that is. But you have to be very careful. You want to drip dopamine.
How do you drip dopamine? How does someone do that? Let's say someone who's not getting 40 million views or 8 million views, but they're posting on social media, they're eating a burger, they're having that glass of, you know, alcohol every night, whatever it may be. Like, how does someone learn to, I love that idea. I'm thinking, how does someone practically drip dopamine? Because that's really...
It's the micro moments of happiness. So for me, it's like holding Anna's hand, and then the noticing and feeling her skin, and feeling the warmth, the softness. It's like being present, being connected, or seeing watching the sunrise or the sunset, where you live. It's being present, noticing what you like way more than what you don't like. Plus, sunlight drips dopamine. Pumpkin seeds drip dopamine. Omega-3 fatty acids. I just gave you a lesson of our vegan omega-3 because I know you're vegan and people have been wanting it for so long. But all the vegan omega-3s, they don't have EPA in them. So omega-3s, there's EPA and DHA. They're almost all DHA, but EPA is critical for mood, for focus, for circulation, and it's the first product in the market that I know of that's just loaded with the right balance of omega-3s.
And what is the difference between EPA and DHA?
They work on different systems in the body. Both of them are absolutely essential. And they're essential, which means you've got to get them from an outside source. Your body doesn't make them. And people who are vegan, it's really hard to get healthy EPA and DHA levels from flax seeds and avocados, for example.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to start taking. I'm really excited. What am I gonna notice? What's gonna be like?
Well, your skin's already good. So your skin, your hair, your nails, that's the things people notice.
Right.
But their mood is better. Brand new study out just today. Omega-3 fatty acids help decrease symptoms of depression. It also helps with focus and helps with memory. It's just critical because they make up the fat in 25% of nerve cell membranes in your brain. And that's hugely important.
The reason why I find this so fascinating is I think so many of us are trying to solve a mental challenge when actually it's a physical, brain, tangible challenge. Right? Like I'll meet a lot of people that say, I don't feel focused, I feel cloudy, I feel no energy, I feel lethargic. What do I do to get motivated? And it's like, well, no. The motivation's not the issue. It's like you're dealing with a lot of other stuff physically, tangibly, that could be solved. And then with good values, good purpose, good goals, you can actually go in the right direction. But just having a good set of goals and targets and values is not going to solve the fact that your body is crying out for attention. And I think I was definitely in that space for a long time in my life where I'd like had such a strong mind that I didn't realize how much I was weakening my brain. And that actually, if I strengthened my brain, my mind was even stronger, my body was even better. And, you know, it was all interconnected. And so for anyone who's listening to this, I want you to remember that if you've got an energy issue, a fatigue issue, a focus issue, like this is the podcast for you. Like this is what I want you to listen to, because chances are it's because you're missing out on some of this stuff. Like there's a part of your diet or something that's not going into your body.
Well, and if you think of it like hardware and software,
yes,
that setting goals, which is so important, and not believing every stupid thing you think, which we'll talk about, is so important. But those are software programs, and you got to have the hardware that will run it. Plus, I hate the term mental illness, and you and I have talked about that before. It's not mental, it's brain. And when you call someone mental, you shame them. When you call them a brain, you elevate them. So we need to change the discussion. And mental illness is in, right? Everybody's talking about their mental illness, but it's the wrong discussion. The discussion is about brain health. And yes, you have to program it. But what's happening in our society now, it's one of the reasons I wrote the book. We're the unhappiest we've been since the Great Depression. That depression tripled from February of 2020 to August of 2020. Unbelievable. Never seen anything like that. And children, suicide skyrocketed, depression, anxiety, drug abuse skyrocketed in children. And it's like the pharmaceutical industry is winning, that the incidence of antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications like Xanax went up 20% in teenagers. That is a nightmare because it's the wrong solution. And I'm not opposed to medicine. It's just never the first thing I think about. It's like, let's get your brain and your habits right, and then we'll see what you need. And more than half the people taking medicine really don't need it. Last year, 337 million prescriptions for antidepressants in the United States. That's insane.
It's alarming. I think we've all experienced it in little micro doses of our family, our friends, the news. But then when you hear it as a collective, it's super painful. I mean, how does a society that's going through so much pain, how do we collectively heal? Because that's like that we're further behind because of the pandemic. It's like it was already tough. Now we're really dealing with it. If someone's dealing with a friend or family member or someone in their life who's going through that, it can feel overwhelming for anyone. Like, not everyone's a trained psychiatrist, not everyone's trained as a therapist to be able to support that kind of individual. Where would you suggest someone starts if someone in their life is really spiraling or struggling?
Well, I would start by following me on TikTok or Instagram or You Happy or The End of Mental Illness. This is a completely new way to think.
Yeah.
And I dedicated my book, The End of Mental Illness, to my nieces. And right at the beginning of the pandemic, we adopted them because their mom and dad couldn't stop using drugs. And I am so proud of them because of how well they're doing by just getting the right supervision, the right love, the right food, and the right habits. Now, they grew up in trauma. Do you know the ACE test, Adverse Childhood Experiences?
No, I don't.
Oh, we should talk about it.
Yeah, please.
It's a test, and originally done by the CDC and Kaiser, and it's 10 questions on did you experience early childhood trauma? So things like physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, parents who divorced, parents who were addicted, incarcerated. You watched one of your parents being beaten in domestic violence. Okay, so 10 of these questions. So how do you score? You score 0, like you had no trauma. I score 1. My wife is an 8 because she grew up in trauma, and she wrote about it in her book, The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. The nieces we adopted, it's a 9. If you score 4 or more, you have an increased risk of 7 of the top 10 leading causes of death. If you score 6 or more, you have a 1,200% increased risk of killing yourself. You have a higher risk of depression, addiction, virtually every bad health thing. And our daughter is a 1. So 8 to 1. That's the goal, right? How do you take your trauma, heal it, and not give it to the next generation? And when I met Tana, I dearly loved her. I mean, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's awesome. But when I learned about the trauma, I gave her 10 sessions of EMDR. It's a specific psychological treatment for trauma. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. She ended up going for a year because there are a lot of stuff to work out, but changed the trajectory of her life. She's like my best friend. We never fight. We get along. We have the same goals. We don't live out of the past. We live out of the present and what we want for the future. And so many people live with trauma, and they're living, being controlled by the traumatized 8-year-old in their lives when they don't have to be. And so part of being happy is dissipating the traumas from the past.
Where can people do that test? That sounds fascinating.
So they can go online and just search for Adverse Childhood Experiences. NPR has a free version of it online. And you pretty much know once you take it.
How long does it take to do? Just
3 minutes.
Oh, wow. It's very short.
Super. It's just 10 questions.
Oh, wow.
And it's
okay.
basically yes or no.
Got it.
But, if you're 4 or more getting help, and EMDR is so cool.
I want to hear more about it from your perspective. I'm so glad you raised it because I was like, I've had a few clients I'm coaching right now, and they've been working with someone else in the EMDR space. Obviously, that's not my expertise. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Like, explain for anyone who doesn't know, what is EMDR? Not the name, but like, what is it as a practice? And what is it
what
useful?
you do, it's actually an 8-step practice. Is you take a good history and you're looking for like, what are the top 10 traumas you've had in your life?
And you do this with a...
You do it with a therapist, with somebody who's trained and certified in it. Then you begin to target, so what's the worst one? And what's the negative belief with that? And what's the positive belief that you would rather believe? And where do you feel it in your body? And so you hold that image and then imagine just being on a train and we get your eyes to go back and forth. Or sometimes they'll do alternate tapping on your knees, or there's a thing called the butterfly hug to do alternately. While you bring that up and while you're on the train, you just sort of see where it goes. And it'll often go to the early traumas, heighten them. But then with the eye movements, it helps the brain integrate it from an adult perspective rather than living as a 4-year-old's perspective. And it takes the distress from like an 8 or 9 out of 10 to 0. And it's so cool. And it's one of the fastest therapies, because a lot of times people go to a therapist and they'll talk about the trauma and they just feel worse because what they've done is they've brought it up. They've like, say, subconscious, let's pay attention to these awful things you've been trying to forget. But it's the integration. And I did a study that we published in the Journal of Neuropsychiatry and Clinical Neurosciences, a great journal, on 8 police officers who were involved in shootings. And they couldn't go back to work because they were traumatized. Because, you know, whatever you think about the police, I work with a lot of police officers. Most of them are just kind, caring, service-oriented people. And they don't want to hurt anybody. And so they were devastated, couldn't go back to work. I scanned them, and in their brain, there's a pattern for trauma where their emotional brain was working too hard. And after an average of 8 sessions, their brain had calmed down and they all went back to work.
With EMDR?
With EMDR.
Wow. And so, and with EMDR, there's no, you're not under anything, there's no substance, it's just...
No, and in fact, just sitting down talking to you, I made this connection because what psychedelics do, and people asking me about that all the time now, and I'm not a fan of it because I think it's risky, and I get to see the fallout of people doing it that have bad trips. What psychedelics do is they begin to fill in some of the holes and the ruts in your brain. Like, you know, if you've been traumatized and I'm bad, or it's my fault, it can help dissipate that for some people. But there are side effects. With EMDR, there's no side effects. And you come out of it freer. So my first experience with EMDR, so what I do in my profession is, you know, I've often said I've been bleeding on the cutting edge because psychiatrists don't look at the brain, which is completely insane. But when I started doing that 30 years ago, my colleagues like hated me. It's like, no, you shouldn't do that. That's not what we do. We make diagnoses based on symptom clusters. We don't need to know about the brain, which I'm like, you people are insane. But I got investigated by the medical board in California for like a year. It was the worst year of my life. And I had an EMDR therapist working for me in my office. And one day I went into Dr. Lendl and I'm like, I am not okay. You can do this thing on me. And after an hour, I left her office and I didn't care. I'm like, whatever will happen. You know, I love to say, my friend Byron Katie says, argue with reality, welcome to hell. And my anxiety just went away. And ultimately, they dismissed any complaint against me. And I've obviously been doing this a long time. But I just saw how powerful it was. I didn't have to stay attached to the pain.
I mean, I'm fascinated to try it myself now, and like I think that's the only way to know. But it's great to hear that. Again, just to clarify, I think what you're saying is that this is a great practice. It helps you move along, and then all the habits still have to be in place. Because do you feel like people doing it? Yeah, right. It's like others you can just go back and like.
Well,
pendulum.
like dancing is a great brain exercise,
yeah.
but if you drink while you dance, you're completely messing up the benefit.
Yeah, that's great.
Or
Yeah.
pink table tennis, brand new study out today. I was so excited that racket sports, people who play racket sports live longer than everybody else. 16% longer than runners, longer than anybody else.
I love that
And-
because I play ping pong, tennis, and pickleball. So
But
I'm like very
beer
happy.
pong is
No,
not
beer pong,
going to help
You know I don't drink, so yeah. But no, I literally play all three of those. I'm getting a ping pong table, I play tennis, and I start playing pickleball. And it's like, it's so much fun. It's easy. You only need one other person, easy to do.
And
You
it's
don't have-
good for you.
And it's fun, and you don't have to be that
you
good at
love
it.
it,
Yeah.
and it loves you back.
Yeah.
So you just have to find what are those habits, what are those activities I love that love me back.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to let everyone know, if you don't have You Happier already, which is the book that we're talking from, make sure you grab a copy, because we're, literally touching the surface, but the lies of happiness are fantastic. There are 11 lies in here that we're told. We've talked about a lot of them today. Having more and having more of something, like love, sex, fame, drugs. Don't worry, be happy. We talked about that positivity mindset. We talked about advertisers and fast food. We talked about needing, technology. We talked about, and we'll talk a bit more about that too. We talked about constantly being in the news, constantly being aware of the news. We talked about alcohol, marijuana. We've touched on a lot of those lies, but I really want you to dive into it, because I think those lies are what's governing our pursuits. But focusing on the 7 secrets of happiness to talk about that no one else is talking about. You said the brain needs targeted nutrients every day to boost happiness. What are some of those targeted nutrients? Because you also gave me, along with the vegan omegas, you also gave me theanine. Could you tell us a bit about why that's so awesome for calm, clarity, and focus?
Well, especially if you tend to be anxious.
Right.
Theanine from green tea helps you focus and calm you at the same time. And yes, green tea does have a little bit of caffeine, but why green tea is better than coffee is the theanine helps calm down the effects of the caffeine. But theanine by itself is just magical for so many of my patients. And those gummies, they taste great and they have no sugar, right? Because sugar for me would be a brand violation, and we don't do brand violations.
Yeah. Where does theanine come from? What is it?
From green tea.
Okay. Oh, that's where it comes from, right? It's not just
Yeah,
there. Right,
it's
right.
one of the active ingredients in green tea. Green tea catechins are another great substance for your brain. My favorite of all of them, we talked about omega-3s, but my favorite is saffron. And I've been following the science of saffron for over 20 years, because over 20 years ago, a study came out showing it was equally effective to Prozac. And I'm like, whoa. And there's folklore in India.
India, yeah. My mom is going to love this moment of this podcast.
That
She
if
tells me
you-
it's saffron all the time.
That
Yeah.
if you're too happy, you must have had saffron. So now there are 24 randomized controlled trials, head-to-head against antidepressants, showing that it's equally effective to boost your mood. But as opposed to antidepressants, which can decrease sexual function, saffron increases sexual function, increases pleasure, increases responsiveness, even in some studies, sperm motility. Saffron has been shown to enhance memory. And I'm like, memory, mood, and sex. And at the beginning of the pandemic, right when my dad was sick, I'm like, I make something called Happy Saffron with saffron, zinc, and curcumins. I've taken it every day since. And I just think it's just a nice thing to help keep people balanced. But then the supplements in large part depend on your brain type. So that's secret number 2, is what makes some people happy makes other people miserable. And a one size fits all with happiness is just not reality. Some people need novelty and they love surprises, where it's type 2. There's 5 primary types. That's our spontaneous type. But type 3, the persistent type, they hate surprises and love routine. And so know your type and the type of your spouse and children, and then ask yourself every day, am I do something that makes me uniquely happy?
Mm-hmm. And this book's going to help people figure out their type. You have the types in the book. So we have the balanced brain type, the spontaneous brain type, the persistent brain type, sensitive brain type, and the cautious brain type. And the book helps you diagnose and figure out which brain type you have. So you can do this with your friends, your family, your partner, your kids. And that's going to help you understand what they need more of or what they're missing.
In fact, my nieces, they had friends over and they were in the spa at home. And they were taking the ACE quizzes with their friends and knowing each other's brain type. It was such a great discussion.
Yeah, I love that. How do people, walk us through some of the process you created to help people figure out their brain type?
Well, based on my imaging work, I was looking initially for the one type of, where's depression in the brain? And then I realized, there's not one type of depression. There's 7. Where's ADD in the brain? Well, there's not one type of ADD. There's 7. That's why Ritalin's controversial. For some people, it's a miracle. For other people, it's a nightmare. And it depends on how your brain works. And then I realized I was seeing patterns of personality. Like if your frontal lobes work too hard, you tend to be worried and rigid. And if things don't go your way, you're upset. And I have, of my 5 girls, 2 of them have this pattern. And I know no matter what I say to them, they're going to dismiss it. It's going to bounce off. It's like they wear Teflon. And so for like shopping, I love shopping with my girls. And I go, oh, do you like this? The answer will be immediately no. So for them, I know their type and I wait for them to show me stuff. And if I want them to do something, I'll actually ask them the opposite of what I want them to do, because they're just, these people, they're just sort of naturally oppositional. And if I want them to go to the store with me, I'm going to go to the store. You probably don't want to go with me. Yeah. It's like, what do you mean I don't want to go with you? We don't spend any time together.
That approach of personalization and individualization is just so needed, especially in healthcare, because like you're saying, and that's what me and my wife see that in us. Like our diets are completely different for us to be at optimal level. And our workouts are completely different. Like my wife is a high intensity workout person. I'm a low intensity workout person. I just don't enjoy high intensity. It doesn't work for me. I feel more inflamed. I feel, more heated in my body. I don't need that. I'm pretty, active heat as it is. And then my wife really enjoys it. It's really great for her body. She feels great from it. And so I just think it's so fascinating that we keep trying to take like whatever works for everyone must work for me. And we get this trend or this fad. And I think this diagnosis of your brain type, though, I think this is the best thing that you possibly could have done for us.
The persistent people, they need carbs. If you put them on a ketogenic diet, they get depressed and they get angry. I was on Rachel Ray's show and she was the persistent brain type. And on national TV, we're talking about this. And she said, I went on a low carb diet and I was so mean. I wondered why my husband didn't leave me, because the persistent brain type needs serotonin. And if you think about a higher protein, lower simple carbohydrate diet, it's a dopamine diet. It helps you focus. But if you give it to the persistent type, they focus more on the things that make them unhappy and make other people unhappy. So the wrong diet can cause divorce. And so you have to target it to the person. But it's also why people get addicted to sugar, because sugar is a simple carbohydrate and sugar raises serotonin and it makes you happy. Have you ever wondered when you go to a restaurant why they immediately give you bread and alcohol? Because both of them drop your frontal lobe. So the bread, simple carbohydrate, raises your blood sugar, and your pancreas sees it and produces insulin. Insulin drives tryptophan into your brain. Tryptophan makes serotonin, and you feel pretty happy, which is why people get addicted to pastries and bread and pizza and donuts. And then they give you alcohol because it drops your frontal lobes. So if they give you free bread and offer you alcohol, they're going to make more money because you're going to order things you said before you walked into the restaurant you weren't going to order, including dessert.
That is so true. And I love it when they give me bread. It's like my favorite, it's not anymore, but that's like my favorite thing that I love it when I walk into a restaurant. I'm like, do you have a bread basket? Like, you know, it's such a habit, right? It's all habits. What I find that happiness is such an interesting goal. That's what I meant by like, we want to feel happy, but the things that you have to do to feel happy are not necessarily the things you want to do. If something like initially, that's what I'm saying. Until it switches.
Until it switches. And oh, by the way, and I start the book with this.